Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I wanted to talk about a few things here. Something that Norman Reedus was talking about, that he talks about Rick Grimes and like reuniting with him, but I more want to focus on what he was saying about, I guess, the story and what is expected of the ending. And so I do want to talk about that and also talk about the new teaser that just came out actually for The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 3, in which we actually see flaming walkers. And so yeah, before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. Now, Norman Reedus actually said this, I believe it was during Comic-Con at some point, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm seeing this in an article here from Screen Rant, and he's talking about, I guess, a lot of the theories and whatnot on how The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon is going to end, if it does end with like a reunion or something like that. And so I'll get into the actual quote here, and then we'll talk about what he says here, because I have some thoughts on this. It's interesting, I'll just say that. But he says, "We're very aware of theories Daryl Dixon will end with a reunion. There's so many ideas thrown around from fans for all these things. I think sometimes it's better to do the opposite of what people expect, so they're surprised. If we just read what fans wanted all the time and gave them what they wanted, then you would know the outcome of everything. So sometimes I think it's better to tell your story. People can like it, argue, hate it, whatever, but you don't want to just read Twitter. You know what I'm saying?" So I do actually agree with this to some extent, at least like the last part he was saying here, because I think that makes a lot of sense, like to do your own story, right? Like if you do your own story, you're telling the story of, you know, Daryl Dixon, and obviously just whatever the story is going to be, if you believe that is the right story, then yeah, if people are upset with the ending or whatever, it doesn't matter. Like that was the ending. Like that was a story that you wanted to tell. You believe that is the proper ending for the character, or I guess the ending for the show, right? Because the characters are going to be in other stuff afterwards. But you know what I mean? Like I think that if you believe that is the right ending, then yeah, I think that is right. But I also don't like the idea of like, you know, it's better to do the opposite of what people expect so that they're surprised. Like I don't like that, because I think that is something that when you do that, it's almost like, you know, you're doing the opposite of what people are expecting. And I think in that sense, it could be really bad as well for The Walking Dead. Like, I think that you just have to do what makes sense for the story. And if a lot of people know or like feel like they know how it's all going to end, I think that's probably a good thing. I just think that, you know, The Walking Dead at this point as well, like there's a lot of people that watch, and obviously people who are watching now, like 15 years later, they're huge fans of The Walking Dead. So they're going to know these characters really, really well. They've been watching for many, many years, right? And I think sometimes, you know, fans that have been watching for that long know what's best for these characters. Like personally, I've been watching since 2012. So that's a long time, 13 years, right? Like that's when I started to watch it on TV. So I think that was for season 3. I watched it before season 3, but I caught up, I think, on season 2. And yeah, I can't remember exactly, but I remember being excited for like the first premiere I ever watched was season 3 of The Walking Dead. And I heard about the show beforehand. I remember the trailer for the very first season. So like I know of The Walking Dead obviously really, really well. It's one of my favorite franchises of all time, favorite stories. I love zombies. I love The Walking Dead. Daryl Dixon is a really amazing character. I love the stories of what these spinoffs have done, and I really do feel like in 10 years from now, 20 years, people are going to look back at these spinoffs and be like, these were really great stories. Like, yeah, they were very self-contained and whatever, but the stories were really great. I really do believe that people will look back on these stories and be like, wow, these stories were actually really incredible. And so I think that that's the thing here, is doing the opposite of what people are expecting. I just don't know if it's good, you know, because like that's not necessarily what was being done before. Like you were just sort of telling the story of like this character, and after a while people are just going to really know these characters well. But I just don't think you can do the opposite of what they expect, because it's just like you have to do what's natural for the character, where you believe the character is likely going to go, and you know, just have it make sense. I think you could do really surprising, shocking things with the story where you have characters die or this and that, where it's like, wait, what? Like, honestly, I look back now at Isabelle's death and I don't really hate it anymore. I think I hated it in season 2 because of the fact that it felt like this show was going to go on for a very long time. So I wanted characters that we really liked to be around for a while. But if the show's ending in season 4 and they're going back to America, like at that point, yeah, it makes sense that a lot of these characters are going to die. So a moment like that, it's shocking and it's insane, but I think it just kind of helps the series now overall. So I look at that and I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But obviously at the time, at least for me, that was something that I really did not like. And I think a lot of people didn't like that as well. I don't know if people will look back on that and, view it how I view it now. But that's my point, though, is just do what's best for the story. Always do that. Don't intentionally do things to, have things just like the opposite or whatever. And so, obviously what he's talking about here is reuniting with Rick Grimes. And I think that is something that a lot of people are expecting. Personally, for me, I don't know if I'm expecting that. Like, I'm expecting that eventually, yes, but for this show to end that way, I don't know. I really don't know if the show is going to end that way, because it's a really, honestly, crazy ending if that was the case. Like, and I was looking at what Andrew Lincoln said the other day, or not the other day, but he said this last year. It was just basically about reuniting, but what he was saying was like, to see how long these characters survive together. And so the way he made it seem, it was like these characters are going to have an actual story. It's not going to be like a final scene. So that's why I don't expect this ending to be Rick and Daryl are together and that's how it ends kind of thing. And they finally found each other, right? Like, I don't think it's going to be like that because, again, I also mentioned this before too, The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, it isn't about finding Rick. And in season 1, if they made it all about that, like, yeah, that would be, I guess a good way to sort of end it. Like, he was out there searching for Rick. I know that was technically what he was doing, but they never really said it. Again, they never really mentioned like Rick Grimes' name or anything like that, right? Like, they just sort of stay away from a lot of that. So that's what's exciting about Daryl going back to America. And that is the thing about this. Like, when he goes back to America, he is going to see Rick Grimes because he's going to go back to the Commonwealth or Alexandria. Based off of the timeline, Rick is back already. So if he goes back after The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, Rick is going to be there. They are going to reunite. Like, it is going to happen. It's just, will Daryl go back to America? Right? Like, that is sort of the question. I believe he will. But is that going to be the ending of this show? Or is it going to be something that sets up the future, like a reunion show with everyone together, right? I guess that's sort of all the talk right now. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about what Norman Reedus was saying here because it's just a really interesting thing. Like, to do the opposite of what people expect. I just, like, if the show ended with Daryl just being like, I want to stay out here, I'm not going to go back, I think that would really upset a lot of people. I really do. I just think it's not what makes sense. Daryl wants to go back home. That is his thing. Like, he wants to be home. To do the opposite would be like, I don't know, it would just be against who the character is. Like, he wants to find Rick. Like, that is such a big part of the character. To ignore that and be like, maybe he is out there, I don't know. And you know what I mean? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So I hope that it's not what they're doing, because that would be insane. But yeah, anyways. I also wanted to talk about the teaser here, and I also wanted to mention one thing that I thought was really cool. I don't know if I mentioned it because I have it in my notes here, and I talked about this in my teaser breakdown, or the Behind the Dead teaser breakdown that I did yesterday, but I wanted to talk about Norman Reedus saying that Daryl is back in Motorhead mode, because that's really cool. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Motorhead, and I love Lemmy, I love just their music, everything, and it's cool to see Daryl being like that again, and Norman Reedus mentioning, him going back to that, because I'm thinking about season 1 and 2, Daryl wasn't really like that, like very action-like, and I'm thinking about the final season of The Walking Dead, like, it's been a while since Daryl has just been like cool and like, you know what I mean? So I wonder if that's what they're doing here in season 3. Like, I'm thinking back to season 6 with like the bazooka and everything. Like, there was so many things like in those like earlier seasons, like seasons 4 to 6 around there, where Daryl just like, he did a lot of really cool stuff where you can just like play Motorhead and all the scenes look really incredible, right? I hope that's what they're doing here. And we actually see in a teaser here that there's going to be flaming walkers, and I found this really interesting because the walkers actually look like they're totally fine. Now, I know we've had flaming walkers in the past, and there was really nothing special about them besides the fact that they actually just looked really cool, right? I do wonder if there is going to be something here with these walkers where they are like a variant of like normal walkers, because I think that after season 1 and 2, and we saw the variant walkers there, like, you obviously want to do something else. I think to just not do that at all would be like, wait, what? Right? So I wonder if the walkers here are going to be different, and if there's going to be a connection overall with some of the stuff that was happening in France. I'm just really curious because, like, if the walkers are just normal, then, I mean, obviously they could just be normal, but this scene here just really seemed like these walkers, I mean, I don't know why they're on fire, first of all. It literally could just be fire, but I do really wonder if this is, like, something about the walkers, like, because there were acid walkers, right? And they called them burners and everything, and so I wonder if this is something very similar in that sense, where it's like something in their skin or just something about the walkers that like makes them highly flammable and they can survive a lot, right? So I'm curious on that, because they always make these little changes to walkers, and I don't know if they're going to do anything for season 3. I haven't seen anything about it yet, but seeing this teaser just made me think, like, is that something that we could expect from season 3? Because we haven't really talked about, at least I haven't talked about anything with variants for season 3, because it felt like that was over in season 2. But maybe this show is going to introduce that, right? Like season 3 and 4 get into different types of variants, because I mean, it's really cool. Anyways, overall, I'm going to leave it here. Yeah, just really interesting stuff here for this show. This show is going to be premiering in 15 days from now, and I will get into my Q&A next, so stay tuned for that. Actually, if you do want to take part in that Q&A, I actually made a post on the channel here, and so I'll record that at some point later on today. But yeah, so thank you so much for posting all of your questions, and I guess thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.